It's like, yes, you have.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Then
we are in great shape.
Let's see if
we
I
can share streams.
share.
And Ozzy Osbourne's still alive. So, yeah.
Outstanding. We're off
It's
to
a
a good start then.
Start to the day. Right. Now we just need
Welcome to Everyone Racers,
a show designed for the world of low-dollar racing
and an oddball car culture.
It doesn't matter what kind of Limit Champ or Lucky Track Dog League you run.
SCCA or NASA, we won't discriminate.
As long as you drive it hard and built it yourself.
Join us each week for tech discussions,
tips and tricks, as well as news and notes
from the world of amateur endurance racing.
And whether it's on the spot, oh, a sweet little Lucky Enough, and Chrissy.
And I give you just the tip.
We're sure you'll giggle a little and learn even less.
Everyone report to the paddock.
This is Chris.
This is Chrissy.
I'm Mental.
And we are Everyone Racers. Welcome to a Champion Spark Plug episode of our show. It is episode 306 and the Champion Spark Plug part number 306. The L86 Champion Copper will fit all 2.7 liter horizontally opposed, aka Boxster engines, fitted to the 1964 to 1966 Chevrolet Corvair. I bet you didn't know that. Both the turbo and normally aspirated versions. Not driving GM's answer to the Porsche 911, then try our bingo card. It will not likely fit into your turbocharged engine. NA probably will fit. Get it out. You never know what's going to happen. Let's move on. What you working
bingo
on?
Card's definitely going to throw the belt, though. No doubt. That's going to happen.
Every shift.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
What you working on? I'm not asking Chris, so Mental.
Last week we recorded from Oxnard, California. I drove home that Friday, had lunch with an old buddy, got home, and I've been doing yard work, trying to rearrange things in my garage.
Like
yeah.
You have no grass. You have no
grass.
Plants. You have
to
rocks.
rake some rocks.
I have trees. Yeah. I have cottonwood trees, which are ruthless. And then I do have palm trees too. And so I pruned the cottonwood some time ago, but it was just a pile of sticks in my side yard, which I then had to reduce, get into yard waste bags, and then set out by the curb. So that was those activities.
That's annoying.
Yeah, and then chop up the palm fronds.
Vegas yard work.
2 hours worth of it. But yeah, and then I've got like the nice little, because cottonwood trees, they provide excellent shade, but they will bite you. I've got like all kinds of nicks and cuts. That always happens. And I like just scratch and
yes,
they're just
painful. Good. They're not just, they don't have like mouths. That would be random. Yeah. Got it.
Feed me, Seymour. And I am doing that to clear space in my garage. Saturday, I am traveling to San Francisco. My friend Chuck is having the foundation re-poured on his house and is losing his storage. And rather than put his 993 911 into storage, would like me to come get it and drive it for a few months. And then he's going to come get it and go visit a friend in Arizona. So, it's a hard luck life to have to drive a really cared for 993 around for a few months.
Don't mess it up.
It's just it's like, where's the catch? Like, wait, you want me to just drive your 911 for?
I thought there was a catch. I thought there was a
nope.
Yes,
and you want me to bring the Miata and loan you the Miata? He's like, no, my neighborhood, the Miata would probably get broken into. So yeah, he just wants
not if you leave the doors open.
Yeah, he just wants someone to drive it so that it doesn't sit and rot in storage.
So 993 is the last of the air-cooled cars, isn't it?
It actually, Yep.
Fantastic.
Yes. I've seen it. And he cares for the car. He takes care of it. He's got a great deal of mechanical sympathy. He was the original owner of the anniversary VFR that you rode, Chris, that I still have. But he is not a collector. He doesn't believe in museum pieces, and he believes that mechanical things should be used and people should be loved. And he would just rather see somebody drive the car.
Just don't fuck it up. Don't mess that up.
Yep.
I think she's onto something there.
I mean,
After the amount of time and cost it cost our friend Eric to have his 993, just some very simple modifications to the body done. Nope. You don't want to
Well-
go to the special wish department at Porsche when you need to break something.
I know the first certified classic Porsche dealer in North America is Godden right here in town. And I'm friends with their, one of their managers over there. So God forbid I need something.
That doesn't
special,
mean
I
you
get
can
it.
probably afford it.
Yeah.
Just saying. I mean, I know you make good money in your contractor job over there, but
as you
that
can, as you
doesn't
can tell
mean,
by my unfinished
Right.
sheetrock behind me.
You
Yes,
know,
I
just
am
saying. I
living
mean,
high
I'm
on the hog.
not trying to judge you. I'm just saying that you can
Oh, no.
find it.
Yes,
It's
I
gonna
will-
hurt.
It will absolutely hurt, and then that will be the primary motivation of do not break other person's awesome car. Do not break other person's awesome car.
Correct.
Cool. Great. I guess I'll
Great.
just go next.
Go ahead.
because- Right. It's fine. What have we been doing? We've been racing and stuff. Packing, loading, driving, unpacking, racing, hanging out, hot tubbing, racing,
Putting everything
Packing,
away,
driving,
washing, filling my
undo,
my
right.
dishwasher full of all of the utensils we used, and yes, so
I did manage to give the Mazda a once over after the race, which is great. It hit 259,000 miles while I was on track with it this
Oh, heck
weekend.
yeah.
Which
Did
is
you take a
nice.
picture? Take a picture.
Yeah, that's great.
While you're racing,
going down the
totally,
straightaway. Click.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's over 259 now, which is wonderful.
Yes,
It
that's
once
great.
again used zero oil during the course of a race weekend, including testing day.
Wow.
That was great. The things I have found that it will need before the next race are we have to refix the exhaust, which was a bit of a problem this past weekend again, and we're going to do something different now because if it doesn't work, we're going to try something else. We'll talk about that at our next show. Also, I've got a bad bushing in the left front lower control arm, but that's fine. I have those on the shelf. They're $65, and I just have a constant stream of them going back to Rock Auto for warranty anytime anything starts to wear out there. So that's nice.
I feel like
I
Rock
love
Auto has like they have
warranty.
that guy. Like he's just like your personal parts warranty guy now.
Or I have a whole department that says, "Oh, not this girl again."
Well, after we've sent them a half dozen axles back recently before we decided to buy the drive shaft shop ones, I'm sure
we have
I'm
a
on
couple
list.
companies that
Yeah,
don't love
I'm
us for warranty.
definitely on a list.
Well, you know what? Maybe they do. Maybe it's enthusiasts. They're like, yeah, these people know how to treat some axles.
Fortunately, it's all an algorithm, and it just does it for us. Yay.
Sure.
We haven't been flagged too hard yet, but anyway, that's the extent of what broke in the Mazda. So
Yeah.
it just needs control arm, exhaust, alignment, cleaning stuff. Yay,
Race
go drive.
again.
Yep.
Eventually. Yeah, and I've been doing the same, just unpacking and washing and all that good stuff. Just trying to put it all away because we have a couple months till we race again. So we don't want to have the whole all of everything hanging around. Okay. So you might have heard, he said a couple words, that we have a guest on our show, Pat Caherty, brake engineer, inventor, and now a noted GRM board member and something of a Corvair enthusiast. What you working on?
Well, I am working on my Corvair. It never seems to, they never don't need something, right? So it was a build that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I decided finally, 52 years old, it's time to learn how to weld. So I got myself a couple of die grinders, angle grinders. I put a cutoff wheel in one, a flap disc in the other. Buddy of mine was upgrading his TIG, so I bought a little TIG welder off of him and cut a big hole in the car and just went from there. What I thought would take me 6 months ended up taking 4.5 years to actually drive out of the.
That's
drive out of the
okay.
garage.
That's okay.
Inquiring minds do want to know,
Tell me.
did you leave the safety guard on the grinder and the cutoff wheel?
I put it back on occasionally,
Okay.
but for the most part, it's off. Yeah.
I buy that. There's
Yeah,
sometimes where it's when the sparks are flying a certain way, either like toward the fuel line or like
Or,
at your
I'm about to do
face.
something really sketchy. I better put the
That
guard
right
back
there.
on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I put it back on after I got back from the emergency room, from
Oh.
taking a little shard to the eye hole. It happened.
Oh no.
It wasn't
That's
bad. I mean, I drove myself. I could see it was a really small piece, and it just gave like halos around the lights. And but it cost me, even after insurance, it cost me like $1,400.
oh.
And the
And
treatment
it's-
was, the dude put in some numbing drops, and then he took a Q-tip and just kind of went like that and wiped it out of my eye. So
Nice. At least it wasn't the kind that are embedded. They have to basically go in there with a
No.
little like
Oh,
grapefruit scoop.
oh, stop it. Stop it. I'm going to throw up. This
Take it
is
out.
gross. I don't want this. No, I don't want it.
get real close to the camera for a second. Look at these beautiful green eyes I got. Man. I mean,
Don't mess them
Yeah.
up.
yeah, exactly. So I don't need any rust stains in them. So
Yeah. Excellent.
yeah, man. I mean, it was a huge project, and in true GRM challenge fashion, my buddy showed up at 9 a.m. on Thursday, to pick the car up, and we're going to head to Gainesville. And at 4 p.m., we put the welder away and
Yep.
started loading the car. I drove the car for the first time out of my driveway, down the block, turned it around, drove it onto the trailer, took it 1,200 miles to Gainesville for the challenge. And the first time I ever had the car in third gear was on the way to the grid for the autocross.
Yeah,
Wow.
first time I got my challenge CRX into second gear was in the street in front of Timmy and Margie's house in 2002. So
Nice.
yeah,
I was at that one. There was somebody replacing a clutch in an RX-7 in their driveway.
yeah,
2002.
that's normal.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what's funny is that amongst us, we don't even think of mentioning that because it is normal.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right. Well, we'll talk more about your Corvair build a little bit, but I've
Sure.
definitely been following it on the build forum there. So
I'm sorry that you had to follow it for so long.
Well, it's like,
Sorry,
it's like
it was
that
all the
story that you keep
anticipation.
coming back to. Right.
Yeah.
No.
What are they doing
you know,
today?
everyone was obviously super pumped when, as you actually started to get shit together right at the end there, and it made it and actually got up there. Everyone was super excited. So we're looking forward to talking about that one more.
Woo.
Cool.
Right on.
Excellent.
But in the meantime,
What are we doing? Oh, it's
What's-
time.
306 episodes. What do we do now after we
I
done?
was kidding. Come on.
Uh-huh. Good. All right. Hey, Toyota announced the return of the Land Cruiser to the U.S. market.
Hmm.
It has been positively received overall, but among the auto journo gushing and rewritten press releases is an honest assessment by our previous guest, Jake Thewies from outmotorsports.com. In general, his reviews are nothing but straightforward reality and, aimed at people like us. They're great. His platform knowledge is really excellent. He points out this Land Cruiser is not even the full fat Land Cruiser from the rest of the world, but the Land Cruiser Prado, which we've had as a Lexus GX. He talks about the platform sharing between basically every truck Toyota makes. It's honest, like the lack of the third row seat, but all the provisions are still there in the third row, like cup holders and USB ports, and that nothing folds flat in the back because the hybrid battery's in the way, and that the colors are kind of lame for something that should have cool colors. Like, where's that mustard yellow that they used to be on all the FJ40s, right? That
Right.
should be back on there.
sundowner
Really?
stripes.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, he's excited by it. It's high praise for someone who has a diesel Cayenne and all kinds of other cool stuff in the past. Jake has great reviews. You should read this one as well as some of his others.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. First, it was your phones, then it was your cars, and it's features that are hidden behind paywalls. They all attempting to separate you from more of your money, but fear not. Hackers have led the way. Andrew Beckford at Motor Trend has a story of 4 German hackers who have managed to jailbreak Tesla vehicles. This particular breakthrough is effective because instead of leveraging any Tesla components for the security hack, they went to the actual processor. So a hack of the Tesla component could be canceled by the next over-the-air update, but they use the processor. So this team plans to present their findings at the Black Hat 2023 convention, which is happening right here in Las Vegas right now. Some interesting questions surround is what Tesla will do to combat this. Are they going to check for the hacks when you bring the car in for service, replace your processor unrequested and then charge you for it? Brick the offending cars during an over-the-air update? Andrew promises to watch this story for Tesla's reaction, and you can bet that we will as well.
Interesting.
Yep. Tesla doesn't like when you touch their stuff. Is
Don't
really
do
what it comes
that.
down to.
Don't do
I
that.
paid for it. It's
Uh-huh.
my stuff.
No,
It's
that's not how they view it.
Yeah.
No. Okay. I'm super excited about this. This is fun. For iRacers, it's awesome. Chris Rosales at The Drive writes that after years of user requests and months of development, rain is coming to iRacing. What? Rosales writes, it's a complex physics issue that has eluded developers and pushed computer power to its limits. There's hope that it will be solved, though, as the developers of iRacing are full steam ahead on an insanely technical rain physics model. Senior Vice President of iRacing Greg Hill says the tire model will recreate accurate water dispersion, and any water that isn't displaced can be boiled away from frictional energy. This article adds that the 2 new tracks are in development, as well as 3-dimensional curbing. Expect updates to older tracks in regards to texture and art facelift, as the premier driving simulator plans to stay ahead of its chief rivals Gran Turismo 7, Assetto Corsa, and Forza Motorsports. That's pretty exciting.
More crashing. Yay. I'm interested to see how they handle the actual way that a worn track gets a really sketchy dry line in the rain, and how you could kind of drive around that.
There's
as opposed
nuances
see
to
if
real racing that they probably are not going to get, but
that's what I'm trying to see. Like
Like,
how good are they going to get it? Is it just going to be, okay, friction surface change, got it? Or are they going to get the nuances like that?
And I think you can expect the initial one to get just okay, it's rain, this is different. But then once they've kind of got that code in there, I think they'll refine it a little more. And like you said, oh, this is the drying line, and you could start doing like even real-time weather kind of a deal.
Right. Like at Lime Rock at turn 3, the left-hander, like you have to cross the dry line in the wet sideways, and you just have to just slide and accept I'm going to slide, and also understand that you're going to catch on the other side. But it just takes that leap to know that, and things like that I think would be really
well-worn, many
rain.
like turn ones, because of everybody braking hard, depending on which track. Many tracks that we go to have a lot of braking, so don't brake there. But it'll be interesting to see if they get that, because that is a lot of racing.
I hope when
in the
you
rain,
host
aren't
a
you?
race,
Right.
you can like have an immediate, like at exactly this time, downpour.
Maybe in version 3. Maybe
We'll get there.
eventually. It's an interesting concept, though. So let's see how it does, and hopefully, I'm sure. I was going to say, let's hope that everybody's patient, but
Nope.
they're not going to be, right?
Have you met
Everybody's going to
sim
start
racers?
flaming and yelling
How
and
many
be like,
rage quits are there going to be when it rains?
rage quits. Screw us, I'm out. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, let's talk about a race-ready 84 Camaro. So it is the 24 Hours Lemon Series veteran. It's ready, registered as a B class, and ready to race now. It has a Lemons qualified roll cage, a suppression system, heck yeah, a Kirky seat, which is awful, a 5-point harness, which is great. It has 2 sets of wheels, both Dereza Z4s. It says 1 or 2 races left on both. We'll see what happens with that. It is a 350 crate engine, performance EPS Vortex intake manifold. Transmission is new in 2022, power steering pump bushings. All fluids no more than 1 race old. So somebody's just like, I'm out with racing.
The dang
Until
old
showing it.
Camaro.
Yeah,
They spelled it wrong. There's an E in Camaro.
There is. They totally spelled Camaro wrong.
Yeah.
It is bright blue. It is fairly flashy. It doesn't have a great theme, so we'll need some theming, but
that
probably
seat has to go.
I was going to say, if you want to actually sit on a chair, you want to sit somewhere for any time more than 15 minutes, you're going to need a new seat. But it's race ready other than that. So always double check the cage, even though it says it is race ready. It can't hurt to double check what you're looking for, because you never know what somebody might have missed depending on who teched the car last. So where is it? I'm sorry, I missed.
Springs.
Colorado Springs, that helps a little bit because sometimes it's not great to go buy it.
Nope.
It's not close.
Yeah.
But
for $3,500, you can replace that god awful Kirky.
Yep. You're going to.
True. Yes, that's the first thing to go. Also, don't forget about the Racing Junk Pro membership because it's awesome. You get all kinds of fun stuff. Code POD23. Don't forget about that. Okay, let's move on to Coming Graces.
Champ Car is at VIR for their annual twice round the clock 24-hour classic. 80 cars. That's
Wow.
huge field for them. Do we know what configuration they're running VIR? Is it the full course?
I'm gonna say yes without
I hope so.
checking that because the last time that I ran that 24, they were using the full course.
I hope they
Actually,
are. That's a fun track.
Yes.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
there's 80 cars, 26 BMWs, which is boring.
Fine.
Boring.
It's
but
still
it's
boring.
fine.
Yeah, I know. That's better than an AER ratio.
Right?
18 Miatas, 6 Hondas, 10 Porsches, and nothing interesting at all. But one Miata is listed as an old Greg edition. So we all hope they win so they can have Baileys in their shoey, as one does.
Sure, as one does.
Lemons is at Joliet this weekend. Judge Corey is there. He wants good local beer. He's not a fan of IPAs, and it doesn't even have to be that interesting. He just prefers something local. Nothing huge because he's not bringing it all back. It's going to be hot, so he's already going to be irritable. So just be nice to Corey. All right.
Sounds great.
68 cars. Yes, please, Pat, chime in anytime you want. 68 cars, 5 BMWs, 3 Miatas, 12 Hondas, no Porsches because Illinois. And from Judge Eric, quote, now this entry list is a triumph. And 3 Cadillacs and 2 pony cars with awesome swaps and 2 84 Corvettes and an 8-year-old Malibu, apparently much, much more. Among that much, much more, Fieros, plural, the Mercury Bobcat, the Kazati, and yes, Pat, a 1965 Corvair Monza. If you haven't seen this car, it is awesome. They pulled it out of a field. It is bone stock. They did the suspension and sent it. Then last year, one of the team principals found his niece. She's an artist and had her just paint it. And she painted it to her favorite graphic novel, which is the This Is Us, the one that they just made the HBO series about. And because it had mold on it, she did the entire thing in this fungus that is poisoning the planet. And then they put arrows in it because that's a caveat of the video game. It's a great team. The car is amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Hope they
It
don't
beats
go
so
down
many
the
cars.
track.
Yeah, it beats a lot of cars that are probably butthurt about it. It's like, why do you beat my BMW with this Corvair?
Yeah.
It's great.
Why you ruined classic? We literally didn't do anything to this but throw a roll cage in it.
Why you ruin classic?
We didn't make that up. That's somebody else.
No,
I
that's
know.
all. Yeah. Why you ruin?
Uh-huh. And it's
Okay.
classic with 2 Ks.
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah. You've seen it. Yes, that's good. Okay. Recent results. We were at Thompson. We're going to talk about that next week. So I'm sure you've probably seen it. We posted all over our Facebooks on what we did for the 3 Pedal Mafia Facebook page. And it's been all over Lemon's page. So if you wanted to know who won, that might have been us. Then you should probably find it on the internet, but we'll talk about it next week. Let's
Matt F wanted some insight into the failure of the 3 at Thompson, which we'll get into next week. We'll talk more about it.
But when Space Pants all jokingly started calling the 3 wrong wheel drive,
there's so much. There's so much going on. Chris doesn't even know what's happening.
Nope.
There's a thing going on.
Our buddy Dean stepped in to say, I would challenge that wrong wheel drive comment. As a front wheel drive hater, I can say that while I'm not a convert, that Mazda 3 is the real deal and a hell of a race car.
And Dean was a hell of a driver in that car this weekend.
Yes,
he did a
yes, he
phenomenal
was.
job.
Especially after
great
being
driver,
a little
great teammate, all good.
And he was a little triggered shy because of the incident that he had in somebody else's car a couple races ago.
Yeah.
So
Well, he did a great
Yes.
job with us.
Yes, he did. So on the Insta, Justin took time to share with us his sweet NA Miata saying his dailies are inspired by lemons. It's a little beat, but it's an NA. So
As it should be.
that's fun.
That's good. That means it gets
Yep.
used. Now, Mental posted a stolen meme suggesting that the driver's meeting is the perfect time to go number 2 as the bathroom is empty. Mikey from Hong Nor agreed, saying, I'm just going to ask somebody else for the cliff notes anyway. That's about right.
I mean, we might have done that. Like, I'm cooking breakfast here. Do you want to just
We
go
usually-
to that meeting?
We usually send one person and say, is there anything new?
We always do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just don't know. We don't always go
Yeah,
after
but just- yeah, I
60
mean,
races. You're like,
Got
do
it.
I
Yeah, yellow flag.
really need
Okay,
to
yeah.
go?
Yeah, drink,
And then the
drink a
one guy's
gallon of
gonna
water.
ask, okay,
Uh-huh.
when can we start racing again? Because that's what causes you to win or lose, is how quickly you get on the throttle after a yellow flag.
Oh, goodness. All right. Finally, on our last episode, Ashley F. said this episode is living proof that Mental does have the ability to shut his kind pie hole for the most part. Good luck, good Thompson. Miss you on the pod, Jeff. Yep.
You know who is good at making pies for that pie hole?
She's pretty good at making pies.
Yeah,
She doesn't make
that's
them
what I'm
much,
saying.
but she does.
Yeah.
And
Chrissy's
she
mom.
made a
And peanut butter bars and cookies and
Biscoff and chocolate peanut butter with peanut butter chips. We had
peanut
those
butter
this
jelly
weekend.
bars, brownies,
Peanut
we had all kinds
jellies,
of blondies, we had
blondies.
There's
You,
even
you
a rum
hungry?
cake.
You hungry yet, Pete?
Snickerdoodles.
You gonna come to a race now to eat?
Dude, it sounds like I need to maybe put my fire suit on and come up and be your fuel guy or something.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yep. All you have to do is walk by and tell me you want a cookie and bring some to. Oh, we had a rum cake, which is a new recipe at the potluck. So yeah,
Are you
no,
allowed
she.
to have
After
that
it
at the
fell
track?
Well, it was
Great.
that was for dinner. So yes, you can
Right
have
on.
that. Yes. All right, it's my time. Let's
How
do
come that
this.
worked. All right.
Oh, good.
It-
You never know.
It did work. Right. So our guest is a long guy that I feel like I kind of sort of know after how many years in the GRM forum reading his stuff. Brake engineer, family guy, avid runner, prolific poster on the forum, longtime GRM challenger. You may know him there as Angry P, Angry Corvair, Pat. It's been a long time since we had a chance to talk to you, like actually in person ish. How have you been? How's everything going?
I've been good. I've had a long absence from the challenge. The last time I was there as a competitor was 2008.
I was I think that was when I went with you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We've stayed at your dad's place, I think, in Atlanta.
Yep.
On the way down. And yeah, that was with a V8 powered Porsche 944. And that's one of the few videos that I have on my YouTube channel that is Mental running the camera, as I finally got the slipping clutch behemoth down the track in under 14 seconds, and Mental just erupted with enthusiasm as I tripped the lights at 1396 at 100 miles an hour or something like that.
Nice.
Feathering the
Yes.
throttle all the way because fourth and fifth gear anyway, because the clutch was just slipping like crazy.
Still,
Well,
you
you-
made it. You
you-
got the time in the books. That's what matters.
man.
And
And the alternator kept throwing the
Oh
belt.
god damn, that thing threw the belt every time. Yeah, and then it would boil half of the water out of it anyway. Yep, made more power
right.
without the belt though. So
it only has to run a short period of time. Then it can
yeah,
cool off.
autocross run 50 seconds or something like that, and then we could go park it a bit.
That's good. All right. So for those that aren't on the GRM forums and don't know you, like, who are you in general?
So let's see, who am I in general?
Yeah.
Youngest of 6 kids, raised on a single salary. Everything I ever had was broken, so I learned how to fix stuff, and that kind of drove me towards being a mechanical engineer. There was a good engineering school not far from home, so I went to University of Maryland, College Park, feared the turtle, and I got to do Formula SAE there as my 7th year of my undergrad career, and I was really into that. Was like a life-changing thing for me. Having something to be really absorbed in that tied together all of the lower level engineering classes and also offered an interesting career. So I took a big pile of resumes with me to the event and got to represent my school doing the design competitions. And I also got to drive one of the dynamic events. And it was when you read the old books, the coffee table books about the history of the automobile, the history of General Motors, that sort of stuff, and you see all these pictures, and they say, all new for 1958, the Chevrolet Impala convertible 348 tri-power sitting in front of the design dome at GM's Tech Center in Warren. The design competition was in the design dome, like this place that I've seen in books since I was just a little kid, reading stuff, just constantly absorbing everything I could about the history of the automobile, the cars, pulling up in front of that
GM design
building,
dome.
dude, pulling up in front of that building and walking in, it was step one of a two-step life-changing process. And then the second step of that, I mean, like, I walked in and I was really kind of overwhelmed by, like, this is where great things have happened. And at that point, I was just sort of in awe. I hadn't really decided that's what I was going to do with my life. But the next day, the dynamic events are in the VDTA, the Vehicle Dynamics Test Area, which is inside the 5-mile circle track at the GM Proving Grounds in Milford, Michigan. And we're driving in, and we're all piled into a GM van. And the guy's giving us a little bit of a talk about all the tracks that we're driving past and the different surfaces and stuff like that. And as we're driving over the bridge into the circle track, into the VDTA, and he's explaining how the banking on the different lanes is steeper on the outside, so that there's what they call neutral speed, the speed that you can go around the track without your hands on the wheel, and just the centrifugal force of the car at that speed balancing the gravity trying to slide you down the track, and you can drive around at that speed, no hands. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then under the bridge, two masked prototypes of something go flying past, and I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do with my life. So,
Here's
yeah,
the GM design dome for people who have never seen it, because I had not heard of it. And
that's it.
It's an interesting structure.
And the dude,
that's
so much
that's
of
a
that.
cathedral. Yeah,
it is. It's a church, brother. And I walked in there and I was like, I've seen this place so many times, so many different models, and just like it was pretty overwhelming. It was like, I'm going to be part of that somehow. And then it took me a couple of years. I took the first job I was offered after graduation, and I worked for the Army for a couple of years at an R&D center in Northern Virginia. And it was right near the end of Desert Storm. And so I was working in a directorate that was designing and building equipment that troops used to breach minefields, which was a huge thing in the desert in the early 90s.
Useful in Ukraine right now too.
Yeah, for sure. And I did that for a couple of years, but the whole time I was really like, I gotta find a way into Detroit. I gotta get out there and do that. So fortunately, a classmate of mine from Formula SAE had already landed a job at GM, and he was working at Milford and was doing a good job. And so his boss said, hey, you're working out pretty well. Any guys that you went to school with interested in getting out here? And he dropped my name and got my resume in the right hands. Boom. It took a little while. After I interviewed the first time, he lost his hiring rec, and he kept my resume. He said, I'm going to keep your resume. And like a year, 13, 14 months later, he called me and he's like, hey, remember me? I was like, fuck yeah, I do. So that was it, man. November 12th, 1993 was my last day working for the Army. Threw all my shit in my car on November 13th and drove to Detroit and crashed on my buddy Tom's couch for a couple of weeks until I got a place of my own. And that was it. And so I've been continuously employed as a brake system engineer since November 15th of 1993.
Fantastic.
That is
you can tell us what we're all doing wrong with our brake setups by the crap we botched together.
I could. Yeah, probably could.
So I this started because the build thread, which we're going to have linked in our show notes, of your and you've corrected me, but I'm going to go ahead just so you can do it again. Your LS swapped Corvair, but this is actually not the first time you were published in actual print in Grassroots Motorsports.
That is correct. in June of 2008 issue, there was an article that I had written about how making changes to brake components, how you have to consider what the system level effect is going to be, right? And I talked about things like, do you need a big brake kit? Well, I don't know. What do your rotors look like? Do they look like they're getting overheated? Do you have heat checking? Do you only want to increase the brake output at one end of the car and not the other? If you can already lock up your fronts and you're not seeing heat damage in your rotors, then no, you don't need a big brake kit on the front, regardless of what they try to sell you in the ads. And I'm a very big advocate of thinking things through and only spending the money you need to spend and only making the changes that you need to make. So,
yeah, that's right up the alley for most of our audience, without a doubt.
Right on.
I do want to just go back to something real quick. 90% of our audience will know, but a handful of folks won't. What is Formula SAE?
So Formula SAE is a design competition that is sponsored. SAE is Society of Automotive Engineers, and SAE sponsors the event that is a design and build and race competition. And I don't know what the criteria are as far as your school participating, but it's colleges and universities all around the world now. There's a lot of really, really strong teams in Europe that bring their cars over, and you look at them and go, wow, that's a professional effort. So the concept is it's a single seat, open wheel race car with, I don't know what the restrictions are on aerodynamic aids, but they got big front wings and rear wings and side pods and all sorts of things. When I was doing it, everybody was typically running a 600cc 4-stroke motorcycle engine. Most of the cars were using the integrated gearbox that's in the motorcycle engine. There were some schools that were at that time experimenting with CVTs. And Maryland, so in the 91 car that I worked on was used the motorcycle transmission. The 92, we built a new car for 92, 93, because each car was eligible for 2 years of competition. So the 92, 93 car was much smaller, much lighter, and used a CVT. And they had pretty good results with that car. I think a 4th place overall was the best that one did.
That's probably the peak CVT, because everything else after that has just been a complete letdown.
Maybe. I'm not sure. At that time, I was on my way to getting into the industry myself. I was out of school and working, and I didn't pay a lot of attention to the development that they went through with that car, but I know that it was really good in acceleration, and they did well in the endurance. They figured out what was causing them to blow up the engines in previous years, and did very well in endurance and stuff. And it was a really good program. And a lot of people in that program went on to really outstanding careers in motorsports. Craig Hampson was crew chief for, I'm going to get that guy's name wrong. French name that was in IndyCar that won like 4 world championships in a row.
Mental. He's almost got it.
He knows.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's man.
Yes,
Come on.
no,
I want to say
Damn
Christian,
it.
but I know it's not Christian. It's something else.
Yeah.
What is that guy's name? It doesn't matter. Anyway, Roy McCauley actually worked. He was on Alan Kulwicki's crew the last couple of years of his NASCAR career. Unfortunately,
Simon
Paginode.
Paginode.
No,
that was it.
Nope,
No.
not that guy.
Then
No,
it was
before that.
Sebastian Bourdais.
Sebastian Bourdais.
Okay.
Sebastian Bourdais.
That was next on my list from Wikipedia.
I was going to say, I was like, how are you coming at what?
I googled French
The
name
in-
won IndyCar several times. And
The
I see
internet
Simon
is
Pegg and
great.
Sebastian
Because
Bourdais,
if it was a modern guy, it's Grosjean. Everyone knows that.
Right. Your boy's wicked smart. So, yeah, I don't know. What was the question? I don't even remember.
We're just talking about
FSAA.
Oh yeah, Formula
what
E.
yeah,
So
Formula E.
now that I've been in the industry a few decades, one of the things that I do is I mentor younger engineers, teach them how to get around in the industry, And one of the other things that I do is I get to review resumes where our department is hiring. And if I see Formula E on a resume, it goes right to the top of the stack. I don't care what the kid, what else they've done. If they're not in jail and they've completed a Formula E program, they know what it takes to build something out of nothing on a really limited budget and simultaneously manage all of the other crap in their life. When we sat down in the classroom the first day of Formula E, Dr. Holloway was our faculty advisor and professor. He said, look around the room. 25% of you are going to be so overwhelmed by this class, or you're going to be so absorbed in it, and you're going to love it so much that you will forget to do other things, and you will fail, and you will flunk out of school. And I don't know if any of my classmates did. I didn't. I was actually, for other reasons, I was really motivated my senior year, my final year. I had several senior years, I suppose, by credit level, but
It's okay.
Typical engineer.
know.
You guys all go to school
okay.
for 5 years anyway.
5.
I'm not an engineer. I did. Yeah.
I did, including my co-op work experience. I did 7 years in undergrad.
That's all right. Don't tell people. You don't tell people.
No, it's
Took me
more
10
You're
years
experience.
highly
to get into- come on.
successful.
Took 10
Yeah.
years for me to get an associate's degree. It's fine.
Yeah, but you were doing other stuff. You were flying.
No, not at the time.
Oh, he
The
is a-
time
oh.
He sits in the
Time
back
I
of
was
a
a-
plane and tells people what to do.
that was after I got
Hey,
the
turn
degree,
left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
now I sit at a desk and do the same thing.
Right on. Yeah, Formula E, man, it was a turning point in my life for sure.
Yeah. We were just at Pittsburgh Bitchin Grand Prix, and they had the 2 local teams. So it was Duquesne, and what was the other one? Anyway, they had their
Probably
FSE
Pitt.
cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Pitt.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're right. And they had their FSE cars out in the parade, the front of the parade laps through the course. there.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
that
They
was,
were
that was good to see
awesome.
those.
Yeah, a couple of them.
Yeah, it's a riot. My reactions, like at that time, I had no idea how to drive fast and what the car was doing underneath me or anything like that. Now I put in the notes there. What do we do? Everything that you ask the car to do, you're asking it to do through the tires. So, the most important thing that we do is manage the contact patches, right? We only got 4 little pieces of rubber where the car is attached to the road, and everything we're asking it to do, we're asking to do through those 4 little patches of rubber. So,
Absolutely. That's so much of managing track time. And
yep.
great.
What
Chrissy.
else?
Well, yeah.
So you are not a professional gearhead in the sense of getting
No.
paid to do these things. What are your bigger priorities? What's your what do you do
What else you
most
got
of the
going
most
on?
days?
So from 2008 to 2023, well, I guess we go back to 19, maybe something like that. I would looking out for the kids, looking at, my wife, my kids, my dogs, my house, my other cars. I got laid off, and the one thing that they don't tell you in engineering school is, hey, you know what? You might lose your job someday, and it won't have anything to do with you. Companies make decisions that eliminate entire departments, and in the end of 2008, I got laid off. And it was the 4th round of layoffs at the company. And it's kind of funny because when I saw what the packages were that they were offering people in the first round, I was like, shit, I'd take that. And so I got my chance. And that, it shook me a little bit though, even though I said I would take it, it was kind of like, what I do is I'm an engineer and I provide for my family, and I have 2 small kids and a wife and a big house and all this stuff. Right. And now I don't have a job. Fortunately, the severance package was good enough that it got me through to when I finally landed a job. And I worked for a year out of state. And I fly home every 2 weeks to see my wife and kids. And my daughters at the time were 7 and 4. And I mean, I'm not doting on them all the time. And I give them space to do their things and whatever. And especially as they got older, they sort of demand that space, right? Dad, leave me alone. Quit trying to hug me, whatever, right? gosh,
Nerd.
yeah,
God.
whatever. Uh-huh. Cars are dumb. Can you give me a ride somewhere? That sort of stuff. So, yeah, man, I don't know, family first, right? And I finally got to the point where I was like, I want to do this car. It's time. Um, I'm I'm not getting any younger, and I I want to get back in. And what happened was, even before I had made the decision, David Wallens was on the board, and he's like, "Man, we just got back from the challenge, and it was a great event. This was right after the 2018 challenge." And he's like, "It was a really good event. You know, a couple of old timers came back that we hadn't seen in a long time, and we want more of them to come back." And he said, "I'm looking at you, Angry Corvair, and Alpha Driver, and John Brown," and he named a bunch of people. And I was like, "Dang, man, getting called out." And so I went into the living room. My wife's sitting there, and I said, "Babe, I got to tell you what just happened." And I tell her about it, and she goes, "Are you going this year?" I said, "Oh, it's worse than that." And she kind of slumps. She slumps down, and she goes, "You're building a car, aren't you?" Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
God bless good spouses with bad taste in marriage. But yeah, so they just
yeah.
know.
Yeah. Coming up on 23 years. October we'll hit 23 years. My older girl is now starting her 4th year of school. I don't say it's her senior year. I say it's her 4th year because she's on
all
a
good.
similar plan to mine. And God bless her, she's going to be an elementary school teacher.
Oh, goodness
Oh,
gracious. Good
right.
for
So
her.
so you raised her not to
Wow.
value money. That's good. She's not materialistic at all.
And patience and
Yeah.
not killing
Yeah.
small children, which is all of these things are just wonderful qualities.
So many wonderful qualities. Yeah.
Now, I say that in our absence. You know, when I retired the first time, I taught high school for 2.5 years. So
Yeah, dude, weren't you like the senior military instructor at a junior
Yeah.
ROTC place?
yeah, well,
And
I
a
was
bu-
like I was
and
the
a
only
bus
military
driver.
instructor. And the bus. Well, because I had to save money. Yeah, for my program.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was teaching high school doing that. But yes, so
That's outstanding, man. You could, I think I told you at the time, you know, you can have such a profound impact without knowing it. I still, you know, I went to a junior ROTC Army high school, and it was a day school. You know, it wasn't not a boarding school or anything like that, but it was all male. It was run by Christian Brothers, and the junior ROTC program was mandatory. And so much of the discipline, you know, of having drill a couple days a week, and having to wear a uniform and having to meet certain standards of, you know, how to an inspection, uniform inspection, and there were some specific bits of Army knowledge that we had to memorize and be able to regurgitate on command. There's a lot to be said for that sort of, you know, instilling discipline in kids. And so many people think of discipline as punishment. It's not punishment. It's just order, you know, and we thrive on order. It's when things are chaotic that we wig out. It's, you know,
and I would argue
we
a
make
good
order
deal of
out
it-
of chaos.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we do as humans.
a good deal of it was you were providing a mechanism for their pride. They're like, wait a minute, I did this thing that not everyone can do. And I did it because I worked hard, or I studied, or I learned. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right.
So
I'm sorry.
thanks for
We
doing
are
that.
derailing. Welcome to Everyone Educators.
Way off. That's right.
But
That's okay.
What got you on the show, and it's one of the things we talk about. Now, we've got some listeners who have these absolutely epic garages, and they're awesome. But even having expanded, I've had 2 3-car garages in my home owning history. I'm back to a 2-car, technically no car garage. Chris and Chrissy, you know, run a race team, restored a Corvette, did a bunch of other stuff in a 2-car garage. So you're on the show because it's always the thing about so many people would do this, or they would do a car thing if only they had something, you know, oh, I need a shop, or I can't do a track day till I get this part put on my car, or until I do this, or until I do that. And the article, which is linked on our show notes, was basically you going, shut the F up and just go wrench on something. So to that end, let's talk about your garage setup that you used to swap an LT engine into a Corvair. Yeah.
So It is a 2.0 car garage. It is 19 feet 8 inches by 20 feet 2 inches or something like that.
Right about ours. Yep.
It's
Standard suburban spec.
2.0. Yeah, absolutely. It's attached to the house. There's a bedroom above it, right? So there's noise concerns, there's smell concerns, there's don't burn your kid's bedroom concerns.
Sure.
You know, kids are
I'm a little
picky
lightheaded.
sometimes.
Get right. Get a fan. Sorry.
There's windows and stuff. There's
I
always
mean,
a way out.
it's
right?
fine.
Yeah.
The views are making me dizzy.
Go down the basement. You'll be fine.
It's cooler down there anyway. So yeah, my shop is not really a shop. It's just a 2-car attached garage that is full of crap. I mean, the drywall is on the walls only, so the trusses are exposed, and that I got 5 bicycles hanging from the trusses on the little screw-in hooks. I got some of those Barina. Yes, please.
How many lights?
How many
That's
lights?
what he's just saying. The
I was
Barina lights.
just
Oh, I'm
giving it
sorry.
to
I'm
you.
sorry.
No,
Good.
that's fine.
Those are amazing.
Yeah, they really
Oh, are
are.
they? That's what we have.
It's in the
every-
basement, so we have.
Okay.
Yeah, LEDs, 4-foot LED strips, and you can plug into plug in end to end. So I have 8 of those, and then I have like 6. I still have 6 2-tube fluorescent fixtures. What? There it is. Yeah, a little too much front roll stiffness in that shot.
But
Every shot.
cool shot. So that's all that really matters.
Thank you very much. So the down one wall, I have on the left side, I have a workbench. On one end of the workbench, I have a bench top drill press that I inherited from my father. On the other end, I have a bench vise that's bolted down. In between, I have a bench grinder that has a belt sander on one end and just a wire wheel on the other end. Next to that, on a one of those Home Depot, metal shelf kits that you slap together, instead of building it full height, I put the 2 half heights next to each other, and on one of them has a small sandblast cabinet, and on the other one, I actually have, I guess I have 3 of them there, because the other right next to that is a little South Bend lathe that I also inherited from my father. My dad was a tool and die maker, and he did a lot of machinist projects. that was testing the strength of the welds when I had first tacked the front cross member in. But yeah, that's it. I mean, you see beach chairs hanging and an umbrella, and you can see the cherry picker and stuff shoved up against the wall there. There's a lawnmower handle. I mean, it's just a standard suburban garage that my wife would like to one day be able to park in again. And, every winter she
feel
reminds
this.
me,
We feel this.
and you guys live up where there's more winter, right?
Oh,
I mean, I'm in
Pennsylvania.
Oh
Detroit.
God, it's
Okay.
awful here
Similar.
in the winter. It's sometimes 50
To get down to 50. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Right?
there are
Not
days I
you.
can't get into my pool.
I know.
Then you just use the hot tub, which is hot.
You're killing
It's
me, which
fine.
is actually hot. Yeah. Remarkable.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's
It's
that takes up a couple feet of floor space from floor to ceiling on one wall. On the back wall is my small rolling tool chest. On the other side wall, so the walk-through door into the house is on that back wall. On the other side wall, there's a couple of shelving units that have gardening crap and car parts and other things on them. And then there's a cherry picker and an engine stand and a small welding table, super cool welding table that I got from Northern Tool that's made by Clutch brand. And it came with a kit with all the clamps and things that you need to hold stuff to the table while you weld it. And I got a MIG and a TIG, and they're both on rolling carts. And I bought one of those little horizontal or vertical bandsaws that doesn't have deep enough capacity to really cut anything big on it, but it worked. It was helpful.
good for tubing.
Yeah, good for tubing. Yeah. And so that's kind of it. The Corvair basically took up the middle of the floor. I was instructed that there would be a path the entire width of the walk-through door, from the walk-through door to the overhead door, so that
Fair.
you can carry groceries in and out and whatever
Yeah.
else. So yeah, it's a very basic setup that is very crowded with stuff. Any horizontal surface becomes a shelf, and I really struggle with that. I actually took the hood and the engine deck lid off of the car so that I wouldn't be able to pile crap up on them.
It's a good idea.
Jay, I wish I had gotten that piece of advice 12 years ago. Yeah. Look, and we're gonna get to this, but you quote Andy Nelson, and it was something else Andy Nelson once said. He said, once your project becomes a storage shelf, you're on a very slippery slope.
Yep. Yeah, it's bad times. Because then you got to spend a bunch of time moving things before you can even do any work. And you thought you had an hour, but now you only have 40 minutes, and if you put any of that stuff outside, guess what? Now you got to bring it back in. So your 40 minutes is really now the 20 minutes. You're never going to get anything done. And
this is our friend Jeff's garage problem.
Yeah.
To do anything, there's a huge amount of setup and cleanup involved.
Yeah, it's terrible, but it's a life I've chosen. We bought this house because it was the right house in the right neighborhood, and oh well, I got a short driveway and a small garage. Whatever,
we feel this. We feel
adapt, improvise, overcome.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing you're into Corvairs and not 60s Cadillacs or something like that.
Yeah, it's funny that the car barely fits as it is. Yeah, so I backed the car into the garage and I did all the stuff that I needed to do in the front suspension, and then I moved everything around and I turned the car around. I had it on the car skates and I turned it around so the back end was closest to the drive-through door, and then I worked on the rear suspension, and yeah, that was how it was when I did the engine, motor mounts and cross member and all that sort of stuff that I had to build. So basically it's like something else. God, we're just gonna quote Andy Nelson again, I think, because I'm pretty sure he was the guy who said it's just metal. If you need to move it, move it. If you need it to be a different shape, then make it a different shape. It's just metal.
Okay. It's a lot of good advice from Andy over the years on stuff.
Yeah, he's solid character.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's only about an hour and a half from us, maybe. So we're down in that range. So, but yeah, he's learned those lessons and has a great way of saying them in ways that you can just pick right up.
Yep.
That's if you're listening to this episode, that's what I want everyone to take away. You don't need a super shop. You don't need the Garage Mahal. You don't need anything. He is my age and he just learned to weld, and I'm my age and I've been welding for years and I still don't know how to weld. So you can do these things and just start building a project car.
Yeah. It's, you just have to start. I don't have a hoist. I don't have a scissor lift or any of that stuff. I mean, the car is on jack stands as high as I could raise it. And I spent a ton of time climbing in and out under the car,
crawling. Yeah,
it's terrible, doing the shimmy on the back and under.
Hopefully you have some cardboard or a carpet remnant or something, at least make it a little easier,
especially in the winter. So you don't get that achy laying on concrete the next morning.
Yeah,
a little bit of cardboard, a couple old carpet scraps and stuff, but they can't slide across the carpet as well. Cardboard works pretty well for that.
Right.
Yeah. Since I quit breakdancing, I can use it for working on the cars.
Fantastic. That must have been a big sacrifice for you.
Wasn't easy. Easy.
So keeping everything going is a problem. I know a lot of people just don't. They say, like, I just don't have time to work on the car. Like, I can't do it. So how do you kept it going for 4 years on and off, admittedly, but you did keep making progress. And how did you keep making that progress that people just don't do? So,
like I said, it was something that I really wanted to do. I've been thinking about this build for a long time, thinking of a better way to do a mid-engine V8 Corvair. I mean, there used to be a kit that you could buy in the 60s, 70s. I think you can probably even still buy some of the components today. A company called Crown Manufacturing that made a mid-engine V8 kit that just you modified your stock Corvair transaxle, and it pushes the engine too far forward in the car. And I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a transaxle out there that would make more sense. And everybody's like, well, you Porsche G50, that's the only one that's strong enough. And they're super expensive. And then, you know, the mid 90s, late 90s, when the Boxster came out, I was like, well, there's an option. And there was another option, hadn't even thought of up to that point, never even considered it until I saw a guy that had built a mid-engine car with a Boxster transaxle. The front wheel drive Audis that have the longitudinal engine arrangement. So A4, A6. I'm not sure if they brought the A6
too, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. So that uses an Audi or Getrag O1X is the front wheel drive version of that. So it's a longitudinal layout. And by using that instead of the Corvair transaxle, it moves the engine rearward like 9 inches, something like that, which gives room for a reasonably sized driver. The first V8 car that I had that I competed with in 2003 and 2004 was one of the Crown cars. And it was really uncomfortable to drive. The seats, even with the Fiero seats that are super thin front to rear, they were shoved so far forward up to the steering wheel that it was a miserable car to drive. And I was like, I really don't think the performance potential of this package has been demonstrated yet. So with the change to the transaxle, I was like, man, that's got to happen. And then I don't know. It's the only hobby that I allowed myself to have for the last 4 years.
I'm going to call BS on that because you're also an avid runner.
Not an avid runner. I hate running. I always hated running. It was something.
Ks and 10Ks.
I have this thing where I want to always show my kids that you can accomplish large things if you put in the work. And so I had mentioned at some point, I don't even remember saying it, but apparently at some point I had told my wife I wanted to run a marathon because I wanted to have a 26.2 sticker for my car. And she goes, you can buy the stickers. That's not the point. I mean, I appreciate you're streamlining the process for me, but that's not the point. So I was like, one day she comes home from church and she's like, there's a bunch of people from church that are running the Detroit Marathon, and they're doing it as a fundraiser for this Team World Vision. They're drilling, they're raising money to drill water wells in some community in Africa. And I was like, well, I don't know anybody in Africa, but I don't know anybody that runs either. So I should just go ahead and run with this group. And I started running in like December of 2012. And my goal was to run the 2013 Detroit Marathon. And so I did the full training program and I ran the race, and I was like, man, I am never doing that again. I hated every day of training. I hated getting up out of bed early to get miles in before work. I tried running after work and just found that it didn't work for me. I was too beat by the end of the workday. So about 3, maybe 4 days after that Detroit Marathon in 2013, I'm on the Boston Athletic Association website, seeing what qualifying times are for, age and gender. And I was like, man, I am so far off at that pace. But anyway, so then I ran the Chicago Marathon in 2014. That's my PR still. I ran a 4:04, I think. Or no, 4:11. I ran a 4 hour 11 minute. That's my best so far, which is still nowhere close to being able to qualify. At that time, my qualifying time would have been a 3 hour 30 minute.
Doesn't matter.
So,
you've run several marathons. I'm scrolling through this build thread, and you talk about showing your kids and giving them the proper example. And I'm shamelessly throwing this up there because this is such a great photo. And the caption is
AK2.
Yeah. It was like, sorry for the lack of updates. I had to keep the kid occupied.
That's right. Yeah, it was funny, man. It was a beautiful sunny day, middle of June. Humidity was low, and that's my younger daughter. She says to me, she's like, Dad, can I play video games today? And I said, no. And her shoulders slumped, and I said, but you could weld something. And her face lights up. And it's not really so much that she had very much interest in welding as she knew that it would make sparks and she knew that she would have to wear like the mask and the gloves and stuff, and she's big on safety equipment, which is kind of funny.
That's excellent.
She
so,
wants
yeah.
to weld so she can wear the PPE. That's amazing.
She's down with PPE,
Oh,
and
that makes me so happy.
Chrissy's gonna hire her in a couple of years.
I would love to. Can she work for me?
She played goalie in soccer because she got to wear the gloves.
That is hilarious.
Great kid, man.
Wow.
And so in that, I spent a couple hours just it's going to spark and it's going to buzz, and you're going to want to jump away from it and let go of the trigger. As you just hold the trigger, just trust me, it's not going to hurt you, it's not going to bite you. Hold the trigger for 2 seconds. And she got to the point where she could hold the trigger long enough to make a bead, and it looked decent enough, and it held 2 smaller pieces of metal and made them into 1 bigger piece of metal.
Heck yeah.
And she was super pumped about it.
Sounds about what I can do with welding. That's about what I can do.
Hey, you welded the bird feeder stand back together.
I did.
Right. And have any birds died as a result of using it?
No, actually, it's still standing, so all's well.
All right. Good times.
Success.
Good times. Yeah, man. So how did I keep motivated on the car? By keeping it public.
Yeah. Oh, that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Keeps you honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the smack talk that everybody seems to be willing to share, right? And I was one of the worst with other people's build threads, and so I figured, well, turnabout is fair play, and I'm not gonna stop. That's another thing is like I said I would never run a marathon again, and I've run 5 now because I don't know how to quit, and I always want to have a story to tell. And so like all the training, well, I won't go into it because some of it's kind of graphic, but there are times when you have to sacrifice a sock to the gods of the roadside.
Yes, when you're running 26 miles and it's the driver's meeting, well, you're just gonna do what you got to do.
That's right. Sometimes you have a place where you can duck off the road to do it. I just, like, prior to that, I had done some fundraiser bike rides for National Multiple Sclerosis Society, and riding a bicycle for 100 miles is also no joke. You got to put in some training and put in the miles and put in the work. And I just like to always encourage my kids to do stuff like that, but to know that anything that is worth doing, you're gonna have to put in the work. And I think they've gotten it to some point.
I want to point out another, Andy Nelson quote. I think of it that you've talked about keeping you moving, like when you only have a little bit of time. How do you if you have 15 minutes, what do you do?
Right? You do 15 minutes. You pick a 15-minute task. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you might only get to sand the surface of half of the surface of one of your wheels or something like that, or you may only get to sketch one part and maybe cut it out of cardboard and tape it up and put it in place. And then, oh shoot, I got to go pick up one of the kids from wherever, or I gotta, whatever it is, life, one of the jobs. So I after getting laid off from back in 2008, I decided that if somebody wants to pay me 10% for what I do, 10% more for what I do, then I'll go work for them. And so I jump jobs every couple of years pretty shamelessly. And one of the jobs that I had during this build, I had to go to China for a couple of 2-week trips here and there. I ended up making a total of 4, I think, 2-week trips. And it's a terrible flight. I hate being stuck anywhere in a small, I can't go out on a boat. And it's not because I'm afraid of the water. It's not because I can't swim. It's because I fucking hate being stuck in a small space with other people, and or even by myself, I guess. But it's not even claustrophobia so much. It's just there's just the lack of freedom of movement, But I don't know, maybe that is what claustrophobia is. But anyway, it's a long flight and you're all jet lagged and messed up that way, and I'm losing these 2-week chunks of time and going, God, this is getting in the way. But just got to feed, got to feed the family, got to keep the lights on and stuff. So I think keeping it public was one of the big things. And I posted everything. I posted shitty looking welds, and I posted poor design ideas, but I also posted like explanations of here's why I cut this piece this way, and here's why I'm attaching it here, here, and here, because if I need to react, here's the forces that are coming into that part. And in order to make it resist those forces and be strong against those forces, I have to put material in these planes, in these directions, and attach it in these points and stuff. And so I try to break it down and make it really look like something that anybody could do. And by showing off my crappy welds and my crappy cuts and the lack of cosmetic care, I guess, on the car, just kind of making it. I wanted it to be approachable, and I didn't want to. If I had quit, or not, if I had not finished the build, then it would maybe appear to people that it was too daunting, and maybe they couldn't do it themselves. And so I'm like, no, I gotta keep grinding it out, no matter what it takes. I gotta finish it. So
I think that's one of the unique things that is in the world where Facebook and Reddit and Twix, I think is what I'm calling Twitter now, is the GRM forum has survived when other forums have died. And I think it is that rare combination of good-natured trash talk, but encouragement. There's just
absolutely
there's not a lot of heavy-handed regulation on the GRM board. People are just nice there.
Yeah, and there's such a breadth and depth of knowledge, like any subject you can imagine, any car, any carpentry project, any chemistry equation, anything,
life things, life habits.
Absolutely. Oh my God, my mother-in-law has this disease or whatever. And 18 people will jump in and say, oh yeah, well, we did this research. I knew somebody who had, and blah, blah, blah. And you get a bunch of resources that you can go check out. And it's really pretty remarkable that way. And there's
a bunch of problem solvers. It's really
a bunch of problem solvers, and not too many egos getting in the way occasionally, but it's definitely the exception rather than the rule. And
yeah, just stay out of the threads where Frenchie's in.
Not that we're naming any names.
No, not at all.
Who's listening anyway?
Right? I'm sure they're not a listener.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's
excellent.
That's about it, man. Just just keep picking at it, and eventually you get there.
Give us a quick overview of the car. Like it's a Corvair mid-mounted LT. Like what kind of suspension you're running? How did etc. We've kind of skirted around the edges of it, but I think some people are going to be interested to hear like what's going on here.
So the way that you succeed at the challenge is you have to consume every bit of whatever you have available. In my case, I started with a 1994 Corvette convertible that had like 206,000 miles on it. It had been sitting out in the sun in Jacksonville, Florida area all its life. And it had been a previous challenge car a couple of years, 1 or 2 years prior. The specials class that year was wagons. And so the gentleman who owned the car got the idea that he should build a Conestoga wagon body, because he's like, wagon, well, anybody can do a Vista Cruiser. I'm going to do an old chuck wagon. So he built a wooden body for it, and he pulled the clamshell off the Corvette, and he mounted this Conestoga wagon body to it. And then he offered it up for sale on the challenge, on the GRM forum. And I was like, man, I wasn't really ready to start yet. But if I don't snap this up, I'm not going to find another starting point this good. So I made a deal with him and I bought the car. And I was looking, I didn't know what Corvair I was going to build at that time. I knew that the Corvair was going to wind up with a whole bunch of Corvette parts on it. And I was looking for a Corvair pickup truck. I was looking for, and they made them from 61 to 65. And the wheelbase is less than 1 inch different from a C4. So I thought that would be pretty friggin' rad to build a Corvair.
You'd be sitting in the bed while you drive it too.
Well, no, because they're forward control, right? Basically, like the same layout as a VW bus. So, And then the Corvette, the engine is relatively far back. It's fully behind the front axle, so
Right.
I could just drop the Corvair van or truck body on the Corvette chassis, and the hardest thing to figure out would have been steering linkage,
Actually,
because
yeah, I
the
can see
steering
that
wheel
now.
is like up at the front bumper,
Yeah.
But I found a 65 coupe, Monza coupe body. First, it had the interior was wasted. There was no powertrain. The suspension was wasted. It's relatively straight, sort of, and relatively rust free. And all the glass was good, and it was $100. And
Sold.
yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so from front bumper to back bumper, the front suspension is out of the '94 Corvette. Like I said, I bought an angle grinder and a cutoff wheel and a flap disc, and I cut a big hole in the car. And the first big hole I cut in the car was the front trunk floor. I cut all the trunk floor out, and then I took some measurements from the Corvette, and I figured out, I got a digital angle, the digital level, and used that to make sure that I had the Corvette front suspension cross member in the right at the right angles. Basically just measured the upper control arm bushing shaft angles and said, okay, that's where it needs to be. And then took a bunch of diagonal measurements to make sure that I had the axle square to the car and all that. Jacked it up into place, checked my measurements again, and then just started welding, making little brackets to little attachment points to tie the Corvette front suspension cross member into the Corvair's body. It also uses, like I said, you got to use every bit of what you have available. So I wanted to use as much of the C4 as possible because it was such a big chunk of the budget. So the cooling system, the radiator and the cooling fans are all C4 parts. I just welded up some brackets off the front of the front suspension cross member and made a radiator support. Radiator if you're in Philadelphia, I think. But
Wow, you put water in your radiator.
Yeah, water. Yeah. So
Be careful about the language. That's a slippy slope.
It is. My dad grew up in Philly, and my mom grew up my dad used to call it the part of Pennsylvania that's in West Virginia.
Oh yeah, we
So,
all yeah.
Washington. Yeah, she grew up in Washington, PA.
That's scary.
So anyway, yeah. So it's a front mount radiator. I didn't want to do like all the other Corvair V8 guys do, and they either cut the lower valance or they'll cut the body panel between the headlights and have that as the air inlet for the radiator. And I was like, well, in the C4, it feeds air from the bottom, right? There's no real opening in the front fascia per se. And cars of the 60s, the front fascia is so high up off the ground that I could really, it didn't take much effort to mount it so that like the lower 5 inches of the radiator are exposed to the airflow underneath the front fascia. And then I just built a little scoop, just a flat aluminum sheet with a couple of side panels on it, and so it feeds air from the bottom. Didn't have to cut the body. I wanted it to be as much of a sleeper as a mid-engine V8 Corvair can be.
Yeah.
So
and you've got the engine's mounted in the middle. You've got the Boxster transmission behind it, or Audi transmission there.
Yep.
Rear suspension, is that also C4 Corvette?
So I was looking at using the C4 rear suspension, but it can't. The differential can't handle the side forces, the lateral loads through the axle shafts. No, actually, in the C4 it can. The Audi transaxle cannot take those side forces. So if I was going to use the C4 rear suspension, I was going to have to design some new structure to go around the Audi transaxle so that I wouldn't be reacting those forces into the drivetrain itself. And then I started thinking, well, that kind of sucks. That's more work, more design work than I want to do. Plus, if you get it even a little bit wrong, the car's going to handle terribly. So I started looking around and thinking about what cars have an SLA rear suspension that are designed for rear drive, and ideally could also provide a place to mount the transaxle. And C5 Corvette made the most sense. So I got on Craigslist and started looking around, got on eBay, started looking at prices and stuff. And I found a guy about an hour from home that had crashed a C5 and was parting it out. And so I bought the frame, and from the kick-up right behind the seats all the way to the rear crash beam, including all the suspension components, and for $500. And
Okay.
he was glad to have this huge chunk of space back, and I was glad to have an SLA rear suspension with a aluminum cradle that had provisions for a transaxle mount, and was all factory engineered, from a car that is, a pretty good handling car. So then I just had to figure out how to tie all that into the Corvair unibody. And like I said, in keeping with the sleeper theme, I definitely wasn't going to have tires sticking out of the bodywork. So I narrowed the cross member, narrowed the C5 subframe 5 inches so that I could package the C5 size tires inside the stock Corvair bodywork. It currently has 275/40 17s on it. There's enough room for a 315 if I can get the right size wheels with a little bit more positive offset, because I got plenty of room to package more tire to the inboard. Looking back on it, if I had narrowed it like 7 inches, then I'd have better rim selection and be able to use that tire space better. But the car's light enough that it doesn't need 315s. It's just like, I want to say I have 315s.
Because they look super cool.
Yeah.
Right? They do. They're
Yeah.
steamrollers under that car.
Yeah.
It's just, it's something you don't expect. So
yeah.
So the whole rear suspension is C5. The one cool thing about the C5s, I haven't verified it by an actual part number check, but I've been told that the front knuckles and the rear knuckles are the same parts. They're just swapped side to side. So I do know that a C5 front brake bolts onto a C5 rear knuckle with no changes. So after moving the engine to the middle of the car, putting so much weight on the rear of the car, and being a brake guy, I knew I needed a much larger rear brake, because the fronts are from the C4. So I need to be able to balance that. And so I got the C5 front brakes from the same guy that was parting out the car for another $200. I gave him for the calipers and rotors and the hoses and pads. And then this is another way. How do you build a V8 Corvair with a Corvette engine and Corvette suspension for the $2,000 challenge budget? And one of the ways you do it is by very careful reading and interpretation of the rule set. And the rules say that you can replace all your brake parts with stock from the stock application, no charge to the budget. And the way application is defined is year, make, model, and trim level. But axle isn't in there. So I can put front brakes on the rear of the car for free. So that's another
Excellent.
You read the rules. It's what any successful racer reads, the rules, and then figures out what he is willing to try to get away with, right?
And I think a lot of what you're just saying here is what kind of why we wanted to talk to you about the show. Like, all right, regular guy, yes, engineering background, okay, but in a suburban garage with a normal life, and you're scabbing together C5 Corvette, narrowing the cradle yourself, putting it all together, scabbing that into a Corvair, just doing it on your spare time.
Yeah,
see? You can do it.
Like I said, it was the only hobby I allowed myself for the 4.5 years that it took.
Yeah.
And I'm going to run tomorrow morning because I'm a disgusting fat body now, and I got to change that because I'm getting to the age where, like, I'm 56 now, and if I don't get that straightened out now, it's going to be, I'll be that guy that's perpetually the bald fat guy that you don't want to see at the beach. But I'm going to the beach, damn it. So.
Excellent. Well, Pat, it's been great talking about the car with you. Absolutely. And not just the car, but all the setup tricks and everything that goes along with it. So,
well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. All right. So Chrissy, do we have anything going on next here? What do we want to do?
Is it time for everyone's favorite segment, or are we just going to make something up?
be.
Well, we could just
Okay.
do, how about an on the spot safety
That
tip,
sounds like a good idea.
right?
On the tip.
All right.
On
Here we go. On the tip. So
confusing. Go ahead.
yeah, so Pat, one of
How'd
our
you open this up?
regular closing segments is just the tip. It's a safety tip that we come up with. Another one is on the spot, where someone asks a question and everyone just has to come up with a brief answer on the spot. So I'm going to say, how about an on the tip, quick safety thing that people should remember doing a crazy build when they're not used to it. They're getting into something new. Like you're learning, but you're trying to expand your comfort zone. What's a safety thing to try to remember?
Make
Matt, go ahead.
I thought
No,
you
you
were
go ahead,
asking me.
Pat.
Yeah.
No, oh, it's anybody, any of us. So anybody, just jump in.
Make sure you turn the welding mask on before you strike an arc.
Ooh,
Nice. Good one.
okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to go back to, always back to my neck scar from the cutoff wheel that exploded into my throat and say, leave the damn guard on the grinder, Jeff.
Yeah. I'm going to say, look at the angle of your grinder or blade or saw or whatever it is, and think about where are the bits going to go, which you are removing. Are the hot bits going to go over there by the gas cans? Like, are they going to go into your face? Are they going to shoot right at your friend who's doing stuff right next to you? Think
Which
about where
totally
those
happens.
bits go.
I'm going to say unplug things like grinders or welders or things that you are not necessarily using anymore, because you never know if somebody's going to go over and kick something on and you didn't realize it. So when you use it, or trip over the cord at the very, very least. So unplug it if you don't need it. Throw it somewhere, even if you don't actually put it away. Unplug it.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Normally, Pat, we say, plug your social medias, but I also understand you are you're a family guy and you have a regular job and you have you value your privacy. So if you don't want to do that, that's fine. We are going to link to the build thread. We're going to link to the article. You should be on the GRM Motorsports forums anyway, because they're awesome. But is there anything you do want to push?
I'm not pushing so much, but I have a very small presence on YouTube. The username there is Angry Corvair, and I was thinking about trying to get enough subscribers to monetize my hobby a little bit, but I don't really have that much interest in being an entertainer. And so I make a few videos here and there and I load them up, and I think I have 106 subscribers or something like that. It's a strong presence, really. You have to get to 1,000 to monetize anything. And then there's how much content you put out, how often, and blah, blah, blah. And it just sounds like it's going to be more of a pain in the dick than I really want to get into.
Yeah.
So
Tell us about
Yep.
it. Yeah.
but anyway, that's it.
Yep.
There's a little bit of content on Angry Corvair on YouTube.
All right. We will have
Got it.
that linked in our show notes as well, as soon as I find it. Anyway, but yes, Angry Corvair on YouTube. It's in the show notes. Check it out. Dude, you need to come up. Yeah. Grab the fire suit, come up with us and do a lemons race one of these times. Hell, you're how far? Well, you're far enough away from Chicago. How far are you from Gingerman?
Gingerman, I think, is 2.5 hours.
All right. So
not
next
far.
year, because we've done the races for Gingerman this year, but next year, come up to Gingerman.
Yeah, man, put me on the list.
It's a good time.
Yeah, it is. It's good. Yeah. And you'll spend a lot of time shaking your head going, what were they thinking with that one?
You already have a full roster of drivers? Is there an arrive and drive opportunity? Rent a
Well,
seat?
usually I'm judging and
Ah.
they don't come, but if you want to drive, in fact, hey, Gingerman racers, looking at you, Randy, if you want a solid
Totally.
driver and an even more solid mechanic, get a hold of us. We'll put you in touch with Pat here, because you guys, you can do a lot
Absolutely.
worse.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say that I did hit the wall at MIS once. but some really fast people have done that. So I don't feel too bad about it. Right.
And there's no walls
I
in
hit the
Ginger
wall
Ale,
at
so
Lime
it's
Rock
fine.
too.
There you go.
Yep. All right. What are we doing next week? Do we know?
So it's a week late, but it's not like you care. It's the Thompson Hangover Show. You screamed for your ice cream. Now you've got an ice cream headache.
Totally missed ice cream this year. It's a shame. I know. Right.
You guys
Anyway.
were there like Thursday afternoon too.
We're busy. So busy. Anyway. Hey, thanks for downloading us. Hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. Also hope you'll join us in the world of driving, racing, and building, because everyone can be a racer or a builder, even you. If you enjoyed the podcast, subscribe. Totally free and worth what you paid. Go to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. Even if you didn't like us at all, give us 5 stars and tell us why. Questions or show ideas? Drop us a comment on all of the various social media things. We're either Everyone Racers or Everyone.Racers pretty much everywhere. Text Mental 484-243-0455. He loves to get pictures of your junk, so please share those with him.
I got a great theme question that got sent to us today. So yes.
Perfect. So that's it. Thanks again, everybody. Till next week, keep the shiny side up. Unless there is no shiny side because you never painted the top of your Corvair you got for $100, then just keep the wheels down.
Thanks, sir.